welcome back to Real Spooky Stories. Today, we have some more spooky stories that will be sure to leave chills down your spine. Today, we have some ghost stories and legends that will be sure to freak you out.
The story that I have is a ghost story from the college that I went to. I went to Endicott College, which is in Beverly, Massachusetts, right near Salem, of the Salem witch trials. And the college started with a big, massive mansion right on the ocean that the family that owned it left to be a school. Now, this family, I think it was around the early 1900s that they lived in this house. And they had a daughter who lived in the house. And one day she was running around the house with her doll. And she was running up and down the stairs, and her doll fell over the railing. So she reached over to try to grab the doll before it fell. But what ended up happening was she fell over the railing and crashed down to the floor. The fall caused her to be paralyzed from the waist down, and so she needed to be in a wheelchair. Back then, families with people with disabilities, I guess it was maybe an embarrassment for them, so they would kind of keep her away from everyone, and they had a little room in the house that was her room where she stayed, and they brought her meals there, and she had a tutor that would go do lessons for her there, but she pretty much stayed in her wheelchair in this room. So fast forward to the family, they've all passed away. The house has been left to the school, and now the school had eventually turned this mansion into a dorm for students to live in. But there was this room that was always locked. And as a student, we always heard that this room was just storage space that the school just kept stuff in. But apparently this room was the room that the little girl was kept in. Stories that I heard about this room with experiences that people had was that kids that lived in the room below would sometimes hear what sounded like wheels rolling up above them, but they knew that there was nobody in that room. And then I also heard that people that needed to go into that room to get things, whether it was a janitor or whoever needed to go in and get something from the room, multiple people, when they opened up the door and went in the dust on the floor, they could see what looked like wheel tracks in the dust on the floor. And so it seems like that little girl is still trapped in that room, even to this day.
Wow. How does this affect you, or does it affect you?
I have always been really into ghost stories, and so when I was at Endicott and I heard about this story, I didn't live in that dorm, but I had a friend that lived in that dorm, and so I went around and I was asking everybody, have you experienced anything here? Did you hear anything? Did you see anything? And unfortunately, nobody that I found had experienced anything there, but we all liked to try to see if we could find something or hear something.
creepy story. Don't worry, folks. We still have one more story to go. We're just taking a little break.
This story takes place in Williston, Vermont, and it is also not my story. But my uncle, he lived in a house in Williston, and there's two apartments, one on the bottom floor, one on the top floor. He and his dog, Casey, lived on the top floor, and then there were two women that lived on the bottom floor. But they were all friends, and they were really comfortable kind of going in each other's apartments. And so there was this one weekend where the two women were going to be out of town, and they had a cat. And so my uncle said that he would pop down and make sure the cat was okay. So one evening he heard something down in their apartment, and obviously he knew they weren't there. So he's like, "What's going on?" So he went down into their apartment, and he heard music. They had an old player style piano that could play on its own, and the piano was playing on its own. The piano was not even plugged in, but it was somehow playing on its own. And my uncle's dog Casey was behind him, and animals I think have an extra sense of telling when something is there that we can't always sense. And Casey, my uncle told me that Casey's fur was standing straight up, and Casey was freaking out and refused to go into their apartment. So when the women got back, my uncle told them what had happened and asked if they had ever had any experiences. And they said that they had times where they would hear footsteps, or they would, a door would open on its own, and they always tried to just explain it away, oh, maybe it's him upstairs walking, or the house settling. But then hearing that story, they got really scared. And so somehow one of them knew a medium, or somebody that could somehow kind of sense or communicate with ghosts. So they had them come to the house, and the person, as soon as they stepped foot in the house, they said yes, there is definitely a presence here in this house. But they were really confused because they said the presence is here in the house, but it also doesn't seem like it's in the house. They couldn't really explain what they were meaning. They just were confused. And my uncle and the two women did some research on the history of the house, and what they ended up finding out was the house was not originally built where it was. The house originally had been built closer to the road, and then as that road got busier, they moved the house back about 150 to 250 feet back from the road. And so the medium said, that must be why I was confused, because whatever presence is in the house, they were there when before the house had been moved.
Wow. How, does this affect your uncle at all? I think that my uncle actually can sense ghosts. He's had some other experiences with using Ouija boards. He had an experience at a lighthouse in Maine where he said that he saw an old captain in the lighthouse. So he's had a lot of experiences like this, but I think this was the only time where it was validated with the medium coming and saying yes, I do sense this, and with the two women also have had experiences where it was the first time where he was this isn't just me, I can't just explain it away with kind of me thinking things that are there that aren't, that it was the first time that yeah, that it was validated by other people.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing. That was it for Real Spooky Stories. I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much, if not more, than all the others. If you like this show, consider tuning in next time. All right, bye.